What is going on, everybody? So we're gonna do things a little bit different today. We're just gonna be screen recording everything because I want to visually show you what I'm talking about in this video, so you can visually see some examples that I've taken over the years. So this video is going to be all about coastal photography, and I'm going to give you a couple tips that is going to help you out tremendously when it comes to gathering information the next time you go on your beach trip. This is just stuff that I've learned over the 3 years of living here and literally taking pictures of the beach. At least every week. I'm usually out there at least once a week. So the first part is gathering information. When it comes to if you're photographing islands, the beach, the coast, people don't realize how quickly the environment changes here, and it's crucial. It's always a cat and mouse game when it comes to photographers here, of always being ahead of the ever changing environment. So a huge thing that I do, and I really suggest that everyone do, whether it be taking pictures of the beach or an area that you like to photograph, is to follow local photographers. Follow the people that live there and live and breathe that area every day. It's going to give you a ton of information, a ton of tips and areas and secret spots, and it's just going to help you out a ton. I forever am following local photographers here, all up and down the coast. I have on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and this ship right here that I'm going to show you. This ship right here, I would eventually have found out about it because it was all over the news, but it probably would have been too late. I found out about this ship right here from a gentleman by the name of Wes Snyder, who lives in the Outer Banks. He was taking pictures of it. This was taken on March, the first week of March, and so yeah, beautiful boat. And I mean, the Outer Banks is a 200-mile strip of island, right? So if you need to network with these people and really get into become friends with these people, because like I found, like, it's a 200-mile strip of island, and if you would have just saw this picture and said, okay, it's at the Outer Banks, it could have taken you all day and you might have not even have found it. I mean, 200 miles is a long ways. So he gave me, he said that it was off the Oregon Inlet. So I narrowed down like the area that was in, and we found it, in a matter of probably like 30 minutes. So, yeah, information is huge, but I'm going to show you something that's pretty mind-boggling to a lot of people, that I don't think people understand how much the environment changed. So this was taken on the first week of March. Now I'm going to show you a picture of this boat just 3 weeks ago. Let's see. Let's open this up. That's what it looks like today. Totally different. The beach is Outer Banks is completely eating it alive. Well, I mean, it's dead, but so it's critical, especially one, shipwrecks are rare. I've photographed since I've lived here. I've photographed 5 of them, and this one, and there's another one that's totally, well, no, there's 2 of them that is now gone. Now you got this one and 2 others that are stationary. But so yeah, 2 things happen. Either one, you have about a week window to photograph the ship, because I mean, obviously they want to get the ship off the beach as soon as possible and tow it. So it's a race against photographing it before they tow it out. Or 2, what happened with this ship is, due to the virus, it slowed the process down, and now it's just eating it away. It's still a very beautiful picture, but I mean, I like my picture better of it standing up in the ocean. That picture can never be replicated ever again. And there's only a week window where you had the opportunity to get that photo. So it's really important, especially when you're in an area where thousands and thousands of people like take pictures of this area. Like my area is extremely competitive when it comes to photos. Photographers live here. There's this Wes Snyder guy. He's a full-time photographer. There's photographers come here. There's been National Geographic photographers come to my area. My own town, I live in a town where the area is so beautiful that they actually based a movie off of it. So you have, thousands and thousands of tourists coming every year taking pictures of it. So it's very competitive. What am I going to do to stand out against all these other pictures? And so my niche is when stuff like this happens, I immediately jump on it. When I took those pictures of the boat, it was a 12-hour trip. I drove 6 hours up there, took pictures of it, and then drove 6 hours back with my friend. So, but it's totally worth it because you will never, unless you were there that first week, you will never get this type of photo ever again of this boat. So it's very unique and it stands out. So that's a huge thing. Getting information from people and using it to your advantage and jumping at the opportunity when it strikes. There's been so much stuff that I wish that I photographed that is no longer there because nature took over, and it was just like I wasn't into photography at the time, and I learned about these places and I go to try to go there and they're no longer there. Nature always wins, and there's just a lot of stuff that I've missed out on because of it. So that's that. And then the second topic that I'm going to get into, it's going to be the final topic. It's a long one, but it's an important one. And that's understanding what your environment does with water when it comes to tidal changes. So with me, when I wake up, I check the sunrise and sunset times every single day. And as soon as I check that, I also check the tidal times of my area every single day. Mainly because I fish almost every single day, but I also incorporate that into my photography. So first, let's get into what the tides do in like a marsh area. So if you plan out your beach trip and there's a couple areas that you want to take pictures of, if one of those areas is a marsh area, you need to understand how that's going to look in different times of the day. Okay, so I'm going to show you first what it looks like in low tide. Low tide, I highly recommend against photographing it. The only time I recommend you photographing it is at low tide, is if you're trying to photograph like nature, like wildlife birds, like herrings and stuff, because these birds, during low tide, they come out and they eat like oyster shells and stuff that is exposed to the tide. So please disregard the god-awful colors. I took this back in 2018. I didn't know how to edit back then. But so this is my town at low tide. It's at the Marsh Walk. And you can see like right through here, super just ugly. It's muddy, oyster shells. But you do see here, if I had a wildlife lens, you do see here there's some egrets that are standing out in the water and taking advantage of the low tide, eating the shells. So if you want to get pictures of wildlife, low tide during the marsh, perfect time to do it. If you're looking at just getting a beautiful landscape photo like I was trying to do here, definitely not the right time to do it. So that's what it looks like at low tide. And this is the exact same area at high tide. It looks a lot better, in my opinion. It just, the water, this where it used to be mud and everything, water's covering it now. It just looks really pretty. And then here's another, it's the same area, just a different angle. But this is also at high tide. So the angle that you were looking at in the previous two photos was right to the left over here. But yeah, so this is at high tide, the water's up, and you're getting a nice reflection in the marsh. During low tide, all this water right here is just mud. And so it looks nasty. So yeah, you definitely need to pay attention to the tidal charts. So that's what it does during the marsh. Now let's take a look at what it does on the ocean. So during low tide in the ocean, just like the marsh, you will get wildlife birds that will come out and take advantage of eating the seashells. So you get these little guys called sandpipers. So that's what I like to photograph when it's low tide, because that's really the only thing you can photograph. So yeah, you get these little guys. They're super cute. So they'll come out and they'll run around during low tide. So yeah, low tide is really good for wildlife animals, if that's what you're wanting to photograph. It's also good for reflections. So I'll show you a couple pictures here. Let's see. Okay, so this was taken at low tide. So what happens is during high tide, the water comes way up here. I mean, you can see it's all wet, right? And then when it's low, the beach is still wet in the area where the waves used to crash at, but now the waves are only crashing at here. So you get this nice, if you're photographing like a fishing pier like we're doing here, you get this nice reflection going on here. So that's the advantage of low tide. That's really the only thing that only thing nice about low tide is taking pictures of wildlife and a reflection off a pier. Because the waves aren't doing anything. It's super far out. Everything else is boring. So you get a nice reflection. I'll show you. Actually, not the black and white one. I'll show you this one. Here's just another example of it. The waves are way out there, but you get this nice reflection. So that's what it looks like during low tide. And then during high tide, I don't take pictures at the beach. The waves are just way too. They're too far up. They're too rough. There's just, yeah, it's continuously crashing, so I don't take pictures of it. Actually, here's another picture of the marsh at low tide, just to show you, like this picture would have been a lot better if you could see during high tide the water line is all the way up to there, and all of this would be water. So like it would just look so much better if this was all covered underwater. And at high tide it would be. You can tell by the dock where it's dark that's you know, that it will, and it would make for a much better, interesting picture than looking at just mud over here. So yeah, learning the tidal charts is huge. Okay, the last part I'm going to get to is what I like to call slack tide. That's where the tide changes, and so this is about a couple hours out before high tide. So it's a couple hours out before low tide. So this is where it's not completely low tide yet, but it's not that crazy strong waves happening at high tide. The waves are just kind of mediocre, and what happens is it creates these nice. It gives you a chance to get these nice photos of the waves. The foam, you get a lot of sea foam going on, and so that's when I take opportunity to get these type of pictures. So yeah, that's usually about 2 hours before the lowest of the tide. So and this was, I mean, I'm giving you like 3 years of, you know, trial and error. And photographing the beach every single day is how I learned this stuff. So I hope this helps for your next beach adventure. Definitely my biggest takeaway from this is, just like you look at the sunrise and sunset times for going out to take pictures, if you're going to the beach, also look at the tidal charts, because your environment will dramatically change depending on what is going on. But that's it. The video is almost 15 minutes long, so I will stop boring you. I hope this helped. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I hope some normalcy gets back into our lives, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.